On today's edition of Chapman News, breaking news out of Ukraine, more civilian targets, the desperate search for victims, and we'll talk with a refugee worker who's covered many of the world's hotspots.
Is there another train heading our way? We'll look at the alarming increases in cases in Western Europe.
Heading out for spring break? We've got you covered. The hotspots and some secret getaways right here in the OC. That and more on this edition of Chapman News.
From Dodge College of Film and Media Arts, this is Chapman News.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Chapman News. I'm Kinsley Rolfe.
And I'm Haley Montez.
We begin this morning with breaking news. The Russian invasion of Ukraine reaches day 23. Russia continues its attacks on civilians. 130 people have been rescued after an estimated 1,000 people were trapped under the rubble of a blown-up theater in Mariupol. Ukrainians were using the theater as a shelter from missiles. The Russian government denies this air raid ever happened.
In the war of words, Zelensky appeals to NATO nations for more weapons. The U.S. readies more aid. But is it too little too late? And Biden calls Putin a war criminal. A lot of this happening in our nation's capital. As the president prepares to travel to Brussels for an emergency meeting with allies, Kiana Favela is here with the details. Kiana?
Thanks, Haley. The war on Ukraine continues. Estimates predict that at least 7,000 Russian troops and 1,300 Ukrainian troops have been killed, although the actual number may be much higher. NATO leaders will be meeting face-to-face next week to discuss the war and the alliance's future plans.
President Joe Biden will be traveling to Europe next week for an emergency NATO meeting on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, an invasion that Biden says is led by a war criminal, a term he has been reluctant to describe Putin as in the past.
I think he is a war criminal.
The decision came as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky begged the alliance to do more to help his country, such as implementing a no-fly zone.
Remember September the 11th, a terrible day in 2001 when evil tried to turn your cities, independent territories, in battlefields, when innocent people were attacked, just like no one else expected it. You could not stop it. Our country experiences the same every day, right now.
President Zelensky showed this graphic video to U.S. Congress in another plea to close the sky. Although President Biden has not implemented a no-fly zone, he has signed an additional $800 million in security assistance to Ukraine. The money will be used towards drones, ammunition, anti-aircraft systems, and more war equipment. The $800 million comes from a massive spending bill that President Biden signed into law this Tuesday. The bill includes a total of $13.6 billion in aid to Ukraine. And in Russia, Vladimir Putin condemned Russians who have Western mentalities, calling them traitors.
They will try to bet on the so-called fifth column, on traitors, on those who earn their money here but live over there, live not in the geographical sense, but in the way they think, with the mindset of a slave.
Russian Foreign Ministry denies bombing Ukraine and says the videos are fake.
The Russian armed forces do not bomb cities. This is well known to everyone. No matter how many videos are edited in NATO, no matter how many clips and fake photos are thrown in.
The Russian president rolled out his first set of sanctions to the U.S. this week. Putin imposed sanctions on a wide range of American officials, including Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Jen Psaki, and more.
Officials that Putin sanctioned are on the Russian stop list, meaning they are banned from entering Russia. The Russian Foreign Ministry calls their sanctions inevitable due to the, quote, Russia-phobic course taken by U.S. administration. Russian government suggested that more sanctions will be announced against U.S. lawmakers, businessmen, and media people in the near future. These sanctions are symbolic more than anything, as no one on the stop list was planning to travel to Russia anytime soon. I'm Kiana Favela. Back to you, Haley.
3 million. That's the number of Ukrainian refugees who have fled their country, the biggest refugee crisis since World War II. Among those refugees, the UN says 75,000 a day are children. We talked with a woman who's worked with refugees in many of the world's hotspots. Sophia Chacon is here with that story. Sophia?
Thanks, Haley. My older sister, Gia Chacon, has worked in conflict zones all over the world. We asked her what she thinks about the crisis in Ukraine.
Refugees have now fled Ukraine, which is the fastest growing refugee crisis by any one country since World War II. So this is absolutely devastating what is happening in the Ukraine, and we need all the attention that we can get on this issue and as much relief as we can possibly send to the people who are suffering so much as a result of this war.
The suffering of the Ukrainian people goes deeper than just them being forced out of their country.
It's not only that they're suffering violence, that they're losing their nationality, but so much of it is actually the individual losing their identity.
As millions leave everything behind, they are seeking shelter and safety. Chacon mentions that the process is fast and immediate.
Usually when it comes to the situation where you're forced to leave your country, it's something that happens instantly. So you have to make the decision, what are you going to bring? Can you bring anything? And oftentimes people are fleeing their countries with nothing but their children and their passports in their hands.
As someone so experienced in the field, Chacon says it is much more than them needing basic necessities.
I think a really overlooked aspect of relief to refugees is emotional support.
Chacon reminds us that the numbers on the news can be easily seen as statistics, but the numbers represent individuals.
Throughout my conversations, a common theme is, does anyone care about my suffering? Does anyone know that I'm out here? And even though they can be with other refugees, it can oftentimes be a very isolating situation.
Those who are refugees carry severe trauma and are often hopeless. Chacon says perhaps the most undermined are the children who are refugees.
Children understand what is happening to them. They're much more sensitive than I think people will give them credit for.
Refugee children suffer from a setback of social development and severe isolation. One of the most impactful moments for Chacon was when she was at the Jordanian-Syrian border visiting a rehabilitation center and school for children affected by the violence of ISIS.
I approached the pictures and I was observing what the children had actually drawn, and I was so shocked to see hand-drawn pictures with crayon of black planes dropping what appeared to be bombs on a church and a school, and the words, "ISIS burnt and broke my home and took it." So very clearly this picture had been drawn by someone no older than 5 or 6 years old. And then on the other side was a picture of their life now in Jordan. So they drew pictures of flowers and greenery, and they wrote the words, "Jordan is so green, I feel hope again."
My sister Gia Chacon talking to us from Cairo, Egypt. She hopes to go to Poland, but it may be too dangerous right now. Back to you at the news desk.
Journalism can be a dangerous profession, and now we learn that Russian forces have killed 3 journalists in Ukraine within the past week. Fox News cameraman Pierre Zakchevsky and field consultant Alexandra Kushanova were struck by a Russian shell outside Kyiv. They were joined by their producer Benjamin Hall, who was seriously injured but is expected to survive. Brent Renaud and fellow journalist Juan Arredondo were attacked while passing through a checkpoint in Lviv. Arredondo was injured and separated from his friend. Tragically, Renaud was hit in the neck and died on the scene. Arredondo described the attack while being cared for at a nearby hospital. He was unaware of his partner's fate.
We got into a car, somebody offered to take us to the other bridge, and we crossed a checkpoint and they start shooting at us. So the driver turned around and they kept shooting. It's 2 of us. My friend is Brent Renaud, and he's been shot and left behind.
These journalists gave their lives to keep the public informed despite the most dangerous conditions. Our hearts go out to their families and the families of any other lives lost in this conflict.
We know the war in Ukraine is hitting us at home in terms of higher gas prices, adding to what's being called runaway inflation. This week, the Federal Reserve is taking steps to hopefully slow the economy down, making money more expensive. The Fed approved the first interest rate hike since 2018. The Fed increased their interest rate by 1/4 point and plans 6 more increases this year. The move hopes to address the worst inflation in more than 40 years. Higher interest rate combats inflation by making borrowing more expensive. This leads to fewer investments, less demand, and may ultimately keep prices from soaring further.
But just drive down the street and you'll see prices are soaring. The national average for gas prices is currently $4.29. Our Adrienne Mitchell takes a look at why gas is now so pricey.
Students are starting to pass on gas.
I used to just go on drives all the time and go to the beach with my friends, but now I have to make everything concise and you can't have the fun trips.
I've probably thought about going to get a bike every day, multiple times a day, since gas has raised.
Every day I pass by the prices, it's okay, it's just getting worse. It's just hard to watch.
Yeah. But what am I gonna do, not get gas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a choice.
I'm still confused as to why it's that way, and I know it has to do with Russia, but everyone's putting blame on different people.
Thompson isn't the only one confused. Most of Russia's oil goes to Europe and Asia. So if the U.S. barely uses Russian oil, why is the Ukrainian invasion hiking up our prices? Oil is priced through a global market, meaning what happens in one area of the world affects another. And Russia is the world's second largest oil supplier.
Here in Orange, gas prices are $5.99. Gas prices are based on the principle of supply and demand. When supply is low, prices rise. And because of sanctions, Russian oil supply is low. So why can't other countries make up for the lack of Russian oil? In short, the pandemic.
Gas production was cut by 10% globally to support pandemic prices. And oil producers are still struggling with staffing and sourcing specialized equipment. According to a Wall Street estimate, this rise in gas prices may make a typical family pay an extra $2,000 this year. Uber Eats driver Quincy Eggert is already fed up.
What I'm doing is I'm paying now $60 to move a little meter from here to here. It's invisible. I mean, I know gas is real, but I never see the gas going into my car. I just stick a nozzle in my car and then, I can drive again.
To help Eggert and other drivers with gas costs, Uber and Lyft are creating a fuel surcharge of anywhere from 35 to 55 cents that goes directly into the driver's pockets. Experts say gas prices will likely remain elevated for weeks, if not months. This is Adrienne Mitchell for Chapman News.
The Senate passed legislation Tuesday to officially change daylight saving time. For the time being, we have sprung forward. And if the bill passes, we will no longer be falling back.
Well, I always say it's better to move forward than fall back. And speaking of moving forward, a Chapman professor is moving forward with a lawsuit against students.
We'll find out more about that after the break.
And I'll give you a special spring break weather report, no matter where you're going. Stay tuned.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
Hello, I'm Caroline Applegate, here with your COVID report. Is there another COVID variant heading our way? Health officials in Europe are looking at a dramatic rise in cases. Germany saw 250,000 new cases, and Britain and the Netherlands are having similar increases. Patterns in the past have shown variants from Europe traveling to the US. And former President Obama has tested positive for COVID. He tweeted the news saying he had a scratchy throat for the past few days and is grateful him and Michelle are vaccinated and boosted. Obama is not the only public figure in isolation this week. Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff has also tested positive for COVID. Kamala Harris has tested negative and will continue to test while her husband recovers. Flying soon? Don't forget to bring a mask. The CDC dropped 9 tropical destinations from level 4 to the level 3 tier, just in time for spring break, to combat the expected rise in cases. The CDC has extended travel mandates for public transportation. Haley Montez has the full story.
Even though cases are on the decline, COVID policies continue as people travel for spring break. Mask mandates were supposed to end March 18th, but now have been extended for another month. The CDC creates a risk assessment divided into 4 levels to show what countries are at a high and low COVID risk. The CDC recommends avoiding travel to the destinations in level 4 or highlighted red countries. With Chapman students traveling starting today, we have the COVID updates. Currently, 94% of the Chapman community is fully vaccinated, and there are 3 total cases in isolation. With the fear of a potential surge after the spring break, we asked Chapman students about their plans for the break.
I'm going to Cabo Monday through Friday. I'm super excited.
For the first half, I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to be going to Costa Rica.
But how many students are really traveling out of the state or country? We asked these students about their plans on what they're doing to stay safe during the break and once they return.
We're definitely looking into Cabo's travel restrictions and what it's going to take, if we need to get tested or anything like that.
A lot of kids have been coughing and sneezing, and those are the kids without the mask. So that's what I'm most worried about.
Just have to have a COVID vaccine or proof of negative COVID test to get on the plane.
The Chapman Health Center has not disclosed the COVID travel policies for after the spring break. This is Haley Montez reporting for Chapman News.
Pfizer plans to ask the FDA for authorization of a second COVID booster shot. The shot will only be for people aged 65 and up. A 4th shot is already available for people at risk of COVID. Even if the booster is authorized, many may not receive a second shot. The government only has enough doses for immunocompromised individuals. That's all for your COVID report. Back to you, Haley.
I'm so hungry, I could eat a toad. A toxin is causing Australian toads to become cannibals. A new study shows that poisonous cane toad tadpoles become cannibalistic when exposed to a toxin found in cane toad eggs. This behavior only happens in cane toads found in Australia, suggesting rapid evolution in the Australian population. The days are getting longer and the weather is warming up.
Well, no wonder, it's almost spring. Colin Gaja is in the Weather Center with more on what weather we can expect both in Orange and in top spring break destinations. Colin?
Thank you, ladies. I'll be your weekly weather reporter today, and today we'll start with the orange forecast. You can see here, it's going to be a nice sunny 75 degrees, and it'll be expecting to rise to 79 later this afternoon. And onwards to our national forecast, you can kind of see here along the west coast that it's going to be around 59, 48 with rain in Seattle, and it's going to be clear in San Francisco. Here by Las Vegas, you can see that, right here in Las Vegas, you can see that it's going to be 68. In Denver, it's going to be 44. And Austin, it's going to be 61. All will be relatively clear without any clouds in sight. Up here in the Great Lakes area, you can see in Minneapolis and in Chicago, it's going to be around 44 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit, with rain being seen in Chicago. Down here by Florida and Georgia, you can see that temperatures are going to be roughly around 81 and 55, with a chance of thunderstorms in Georgia. By here in New York and DC, you can see that there's going to be a nice around 72 to 68 degrees temperature Fahrenheit, and it's going to be cloudy in DC. And to your Orange County forecast, you can see here in northern Orange County that it's going to be roughly around 74 degrees, excuse me. And by the coast here in Newport, it's going to be 66. Inwards into Irvine, you can see, and Mission Viejo, you can see around 74 average, with 75 in Mission Viejo and 73 in Irvine. And down here in South Orange, on the south coast of Orange County, it's going to be a 66 in San Clemente and Laguna. And now for your orange weekly forecast, you can kind of see that temperatures are pretty average this week, reaching the highs of 87 and the lows of 69. And your coldest temperature is going to be on 50 on Monday. And now onto your spring break forecast. We're going to start with Palm Springs. It's much like Orange. It's going to be sunny throughout the week, partially cloudy, and your highest temperature is going to be a 92 on Thursdays, and your lowest is going to be an 80 on Sunday. On to Las Vegas. It's also pretty similar to the previous two locations that we talked about, except you're going to see some clouds on Sunday. Your highest temperature is going to be 72 on Monday, and it's going to be 64 on Thursday with your coldest. On to Miami, you can kind of see it's pretty consistent throughout the week. It's going to be cloudy throughout the week, but you're going to see some rain on Sunday, with the hottest temperature being 83 on Thursday and the coldest being 79 on Monday, excuse me. And in Cabo, you can see that temperatures are much like Orange. Not very consistent throughout the week. It's going to be 78 at your highest on Sunday and Thursdays, and you're going to see your lowest on 73 on Monday and Tuesdays, and not all clouds in the sky. That was your weekly forecast, and I'll be seeing you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in.
In a story you might not believe, a business and economics teacher at Chapman University is suing students for allegedly cheating on 2 tests last spring.
The test questions were uploaded on Course Hero, a popular online study resource, which the professor claims violates its intellectual property.
David Berkovitz studied at Cal State Northridge and Southwestern Law School before he began teaching at Chapman's Ardro School of Business and Economics. Last spring, Berkovitz taught a course called Legal Environment of Business. Many students like Sarah Eppley and Jordan Leibowitz said they loved taking the class.
I'm not sure how other people feel, but that was my favorite class that semester.
He was one of my favorite professors I've ever had. Overall, he made me love learning about business law, which would never be something that I would be super into. So
now, a year later, these same students are shocked to hear that Berkovitz filed a lawsuit just last Friday against students who supposedly cheated on a chapter and final exam.
The exams at the very top have a legend that say quiz instructions. This is a closed book exam. Do not post this on the internet. Do not share with them. You don't have to understand copyright law to be able to read that notice and recognize you can't post this online.
Berkovitz's lawyer says a subpoena will be filed in the coming days to gain access to the IP addresses of students who shared the test questions on Course Hero. No students have been identified yet, but he says the goal of this lawsuit is more symbolic than anything.
My suspicion, and I think Professor Berkovitz's suspicion, is that once we get the information about this one or more than one Chapman University student, turn it over to Chapman University, it's pretty much done at that point. The lawsuit has served its purpose.
While Professor Berkovitz's purpose may be to promote better study habits and be an ally to students who don't cheat, some of those very students are not convinced.
He knows the law. He's a business law professor and he's suing students. That is literally terrifying.
Probably more of just a lesson. I was surprised, but at the same time, he is teaching a law class. So it makes sense.
As Berkovitz is teaching another semester of the course this spring, the unit on copyright infringement just got some real-life examples. For Chapman News, I'm Callista Kirk.
On our crazy campus over break, we have some Orange County hidden gems to check out over your staycation.
Spending time outdoors has never felt more valuable. Whether it's exploring nature or relaxing in your yard, let's do it responsibly. Before going out, check for closures and fire restrictions. Practice social distancing. even when outside and on the trail. Back at home, if burning yard debris, keep your pile small. And no matter where you are, be sure to properly extinguish any outdoor fire. Drown, stir, drown, feel. We're all in this together. Help keep our safe places safe.
Welcome back to the Best Campus Sports Show. I'm Ryan Deeb, and this week's news surely will get some fans excited, while others not so much. The 2022 NFL trading period opened today. Contract renewals and transfers between teams will begin to take place. Free agents already have been making moves throughout this week, but the most noteworthy move came after a long 40-day retirement. That's right, the GOAT, Tom Brady, is back. Looks like we're not the only ones struggling with these gas prices. After losing to the LA Rams in this year's NFL divisional round, Brady decided to call it quits, but it didn't take long before the 7-time Super Bowl winner announced that he has unfinished business with the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Brady announced the news over social media, saying, "I love my teammates and I love my supportive family. Without them, none of this is possible." Another huge deal is taking place in the MLB with the LA Dodgers, adding a 4th MVP to their roster. Freddie Freeman, a 32-year-old from the Atlanta Braves, has signed a 6-year deal with the Dodgers. Freeman became a free agent at the end of his World Series winning season with the Atlanta Braves. His new deal in LA is valued at $162 million. Now, on to some news from across the pond. From champions of Europe to an internal collapse, soccer in the UK has clashed with politics as the owner of Chelsea FC falls victim to government sanctions.
Chelsea FC is one of England's biggest soccer teams. Sport Market reports that Chelsea have the second largest fan base of any English sports team in the world, with over 135 million supporters. Chelsea is also one of the world's richest sports teams, as owner Roman Abramovich has invested over £2 billion into the club since taking it over in 2003. In light of the war in Ukraine, however, Abramovich was one of 7 Russian oligarchs that were sanctioned by the UK government last week. Chelsea fans, though frustrated, understand the need for such sanctions.
I think football is so intertwined with the fabric of not only England, but a lot of other European countries. And this is such a big issue, a big problem, that to try and separate them, I think you can't do it. It's the right thing to do.
Under these sanctions, the team will not be allowed to buy or sell players, offer new contracts to current players, sell tickets to games, and yes, even the team's gift shop has been closed. Chelsea is also limited to a £20,000 travel budget, though manager Thomas Tuchel is committed to getting his team to every game.
And we can go by plane and can go back by plane. If not, we go by train. If not, we go by bus. If not, I drive for 7-seater, honestly.
Abramovich attempted to sell the club early last week amidst rumors of possible sanctions, but will now have to give up the club for a reduced cost. Owners of the LA Dodgers, Sacramento Kings, Houston Rockets, and Chicago Cubs have all expressed interest in taking over the club.
Another team here in LA is finally ready to hit the pitch after a 2-year wait during the pandemic. LA's first professional women's soccer team in 10 years, Angel City FC, is hosting their first preseason game this weekend. Men's professional sports teams outnumber women's teams in Los Angeles by 10-2. Angel City FC will join the Los Angeles Sparks as the only 2 professional women's sports teams in the city. Angel City FC will be playing their first 3 home games at Titan Stadium at Cal State Fullerton. Then they will move to the Banc of California Stadium in LA for the regular season. Good luck to Angel City FC as they look to follow in LA's winning ways. And with March Madness in full swing, good luck to the remaining 161 perfect tournament brackets. That's right, out of over 17 million brackets that were submitted, only a handful remain after St. Peter's pulled off an upset against second seed Kentucky. It's sure to be an action-packed month for college basketball, so stay tuned to the Best Campus Sports Show for more updates.
Disney's response to the Don't Say Gay bill, Pixar's turning red, turning heads, and MGM being bought. We have that and more after the break.
The Oscars are coming up, and our very own Callista Kirk took a dive into how students get into award shows.
With just over a week to go, I checked in to see how everyone is spending Hollywood's biggest night.
I'll be going to a friend's Oscar party.
Or we do like a bingo kind of thing. If this director wins, if this director wins, if the host makes a joke that no one laughs at.
If the nominations come up and if everything comes out on like social media and I got a pop-up on my phone, I probably will take a look, but I'm not going to invest my life into it.
Kaylee isn't the only one not tuning in to ABC's live broadcast this year. According to CNBC reports, live viewership took a huge blow during the pandemic, with a 50% drop between 2020 and 2021. The future of the awards season is changing, from live broadcasts to social media, from theatrical releases dominating the nominations to streaming services. Rona Edwards has been witnessing these changes over the past few years, making note of it as a producer in the industry.
I think it's diluted what the Oscar means, because by the time we get to Oscar, everyone predicts who the winner is. The Academy Awards were started to let the world see even more and more movies that are out there. I don't think we should be chasing the ratings. And it takes a village to actually make a movie.
Bloom may be a professional, but Chapman students share similar sentiment.
I think the Oscars need to be more diverse. I think they need to be updated a little bit. I think they fall into the wayside.
I'm not really impressed with the selection this year.
Definitely present all the categories on air for everyone to see. I don't really love what they're doing this year, and I hope that in future years they can go back to showing all the awards.
Regardless of any issues or complaints, millions of people will still be tuning in next Sunday, waiting to see their favorites take home the award.
Big Tick Tick Boom guy. Love Andrew Garfield.
I'm really excited to see Ariana DeBose. I really hope she wins.
She will be the first out queer woman to potentially win, so that'll be exciting for supporting female actress.
I'm just going to be keeping my fingers crossed the whole time that Kristen Stewart wins.
For Chapman News, I'm Callista Kirk.
We wanted to hear your thoughts on who'd win the Oscars this year, so we created a survey and shared it across social media. We got about 50 responses, and based on that, here's who you think Chapman students will take home the biggest awards of the night.
First up, it's one of the most popular movies of the year, and also the best. You predicted Dune would take home Best Picture, earning about a third of votes. Power of the Dog was a runner-up, and Drive My Car, only 1 vote. Seriously, Chapman students? Moving on, Steven Spielberg was the overwhelming favorite to win Best Director. Maybe you just didn't know any of the other names, but he's still a solid choice.
Lastly, Andrew Garfield could walk away as the certified white boy of the year with an Oscar win, and you certainly seem to think so. You also seem to think an actor that was in the movie Twilight will win an Oscar because you picked Kristen Stewart. All good choices. I don't know about you, Kinsley, but I personally haven't watched any, so...
I've only watched Spider-Man No Way Home and Dune, so I wish Dune will get Best Picture.
We'll see. Well, now for your entertainment report, Peyton Bell.
Hey guys, I'm Peyton Bell, and it's time to get poppin' with the latest in Hollywood. First up, what do you get when you cross Deadpool, Serena van der Woodsen, Alexander Hamilton, and Sister Knight from Watchmen? This year's Met Gala. Back to its regular schedule in May, the biggest fashion event of the year will be hosted by Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and Regina King. This year's gala is themed In America, an Anthology of Fashion, the follow-up to September's Lexicon of Fashion. Tune in May 2nd to watch your favorite celebrities dress funny. Moving from New York City to Florida, Disney's LGBTQIA+ employees are participating in walkouts this week due to the company's controversial response to the Florida Don't Say Gay bill. CEO Bob Chapek came under fire last week for staying quiet on a bill that would prohibit classroom discussion about sexual orientation and gender identity in Florida's primary schools. Now, employees are scheduling 15-minute walkouts during break periods and are also planning a full-stage walkout March 22nd. Last Friday, Chapek tried to slap a Band-Aid on the situation with a memo to Disney staff apologizing for his response, vowing to pause political donations and make contributions to LGBT+ friendly organizations. A Twitter account called Disney Walkout responded to Chapek's statement, saying the apology was appreciated, but there was more work to be done. They wrote, quote, "Cast members' identities are not political issues. Our safety and well-being is crucial to the success of this company." Chapman News reached out to multiple Disney employees for comment, but they declined, saying Disney instructed them not to speak to the media on behalf of the company. If only Disney could put as much care for their employees as they do into their movies. At the same time as this PR nightmare, Pixar is saving their reputation with a whole lot of happy headlines thanks to Turning Red, their newest animated masterpiece.
Coming! It's gonna be me!
A story about 13-year-old May, who turns into a giant red panda under high emotions. The movie has been praised for its heart and cultural awareness. Plus, it's the first Pixar film with a solo female director. She's just like me, except instead of turning into a giant ball of fluff when I get stressed, I turn into a giant ball of insecurity. Anyways, speaking of movies, Amazon is continuing its goal to apparently own the entire free world. They're buying massive studio MGM this week for $8.5 billion. Good news for Amazon users, who will likely soon have access to thousands of MGM titles like James Bond, Rocky, and Legally Blonde. Bad news for Elon Musk and the other bigwigs trying to knock Jeff Bezos off as the richest person alive. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to make those Oscar picks. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Peyton. For all you Panthers staying local for spring break, this next story is for you.
We have Emma Sexton here to show us some Orange County hidden gems.
Lucky for us, Southern California is one of the best places to be during spring break. For those who are looking to get out and adventure, Crystal Cove State Park, located in Newport Beach, has incredible views, hiking, and tide pool viewings. And just a little farther down the coast in Laguna is Thousand Steps Beach, a hidden gem in OC. Although it's a bit of a trek to get there, it's a paradise, complete with sea caves and a pool. And if you're looking to get out on the water, rent a Duffy in Newport at Balboa Bay, or a paddleboard from OEX in Huntington Harbor. And don't tell anyone I told you about this place, but after a long day of paddleboarding, Sweet Jill's Bakery in Seal Beach is the only place to go. They have a cinnamon roll that's so good my mouth is watering just thinking about it. And for those who are looking for some more indoor-oriented experiences, check out Retro Row in Long Beach. Okay, we know this isn't technically in Orange County, but it's got the best vintage shopping and coffee shops in SoCal. Have a great spring break, staycationers. Back to you at the desk.
Man, now I wish I was staying here for spring break.
Me too. Well, that's all we have for this week. Be sure to check out our YouTube page at chapmannews.tv. And make sure to follow us at Chapman News. I'm Kinsley Rolfe.
And I'm Haley Montez. Next week we will be on break. We'll see you April 1st. Same time, same place.